Marcy and Gates in the middle of Bed-Stuy, my old neighborhood. That yellow and red building on the other side of the street, that's a mosque. It's been there ever since I can remember. Doesn't seem like much has changed on this corner. Here's St. George's Episcopal Church. This is where I was an acolyte every Sunday morning. Father Euclides was the priest, and we were the dynamic duo, which is to say, I knew what to do, when to do it, and how to answer the responses when the rest of the church was silent. My family went to church every Sunday, so I had a choice: sit in the pews with the adults or get busy on the altar. I chose the way of the acolyte. It was kind of like being on stage. Lots of fun. At the end of this alley was the meeting place for the Boy Scouts and the Explorers. I had been a member of both. That's where I met Harold Rogers, who was one of my best friends at the time, and Ben Harney, who I'd reconnect with later on in life, on Broadway. This area is still clean and still clear. Seems like it's not being used for too awfully much. It's kind of like time has stood still. Regardless of how they surround this corner with other street names, it will always be Marcy and Monroe. So now as we walk down Monroe Street, it's still an exceptionally wide street, and most of the houses, appearance-wise, doesn't seem to have changed much. On the left is where Hillis Leake and his family lived. Over there, on the right, is where Hank and Mike Euclides lived. Yep, the preacher's sons. In the middle of the street is where I played stickball in Scully. I guess when my dad was a kid, he probably played stickball in this space as well, since Monroe Street was his home. This is the block where my father grew up. His mother and father lived here and owned one of the brownstones a little further down. My dad was in the armed services, so we traveled a lot. I was a world traveler at a very early age. Each time we came back to the States, this is where we'd stay. Even though I don't talk a lot about those travels, they were always fond memories. Being in Japan as an 8-year-old was awesome and a lot of fun. I still remember my friends, Junko and Achiko, who were our neighbors when we lived in a little village. Well, finally, we're here. There she is, 254. From here, I went to PS3 for elementary school and 258 for junior high school. This is where I had a dog named Clancy and where all the relatives would gather for every holiday occasion. The upright piano sat in the living room. The bathroom was just off the dining room, and the basement was a scary place for hide and seek. Aunt Allie and cousin Juanita had the top floor. We had the parlor floor. 254 Monroe Street was a magical place, and a special time I still call Camelot. As I walk down this street, it surely looks like folks still take pride in their houses. I haven't noticed any abundance of litter, no loud boom boxes blasting, no crowds of folk just hanging out because they have nothing better to do. Everything seems peaceful. Of course, it's only 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Maybe things will get busy, after dark. Who knows? One of my teacher friends, Mary Montgomery, lived on the right side of this street in one of these houses, but I didn't know her growing up. I didn't meet her until many moons later when I started teaching at PS 316 in Prospect Heights. Mary Montgomery was the music teacher at the school. Who knew? Yeah, it's a small world. We are approaching the apartment houses on the left, the only apartment houses on the block. Prince lived in one of the apartments, another one of my running buddies. I never went inside the apartments, but my image of them was always a bit on the deep, dark, and dank side. They were definitely dingy on the outside. Looks like they are being upgraded now. Guess it's about time, though. So this little corner is where Eddie's used to be. This was the neighborhood candy store. Since then, it's been a lot of other things, including a liquor store. Even with the out-of-the-place building on the other side of Nostrand Avenue, this corner looks about the same and still feels very familiar. It still hangs on to remnants of old Brooklyn, precious memories, and a reminder that the more things change, the more things can remain the same.